Welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon, and this is a channel that is dedicated to all things related to narcissism. One of the reasons that Joe and I connected so deeply and so intimately from our very first phone conversation was because Joe was the first person I ever spoke to who understood narcissism, who knew what it was like to be with a narcissist, who knew what your life is. And your life when you're with a narcissist is that your reality is insanity. You're surrounded by this at all times. At the same time, though, you're trying to live your life. You're trying to raise your children, go to work, whatever it is that you're trying to do. And the narcissist is just there dragging you down. And you feel so alone, so isolated. Nobody else can possibly understand this. You know, Joe calls that terminal uniqueness. And I think we all feel that way, at least at some point, because it's so crazy and other people don't live like this. But you aren't alone. I wasn't alone. None of us are alone. There's millions of people who understand this. And that's why I want to talk to you guys today. I want to talk to you about something that I'm struggling with because I'm hoping somebody can understand. Somebody can help me, tell me it's going to be okay, or I felt like this and it got better, or you're worrying for nothing, whatever it is. I have been in absolute anguish and turmoil. Let me tell you a little bit about my kids. Many of you know Paris because she's been on the channel several times. She's my 20-year-old. I also have a 17-year-old son, and he's weeks away from turning 18. He's almost done with high school. When I wanted to have a first baby, when I wanted to get pregnant with Paris, I got pregnant right away. With my second child, that didn't happen for me. It went through months and months and months. Finally, I had to accept that I don't know if this is going to happen. So I went to a fertility doctor, and I had what they call secondary infertility. So for those of you that don't know what that is somebody can get pregnant at one point, and then afterwards they can't get pregnant again. And that was what was happening to me. There was no reason, there was no cause, but I was able, with the help of the doctor, to get pregnant. So when I found out I was pregnant with my son, I took 8 pregnancy tests that same day because I couldn't believe it. I was exploding with gratitude. I prayed and prayed. I know, of course, that everybody loves their children. I don't love mine more than you. And so I say this just with that understanding, just so you know. My son was the most wanted child ever. It got to the point where I was so devastated. And if you are going through this, God bless you. And if you know somebody who's going through this, I'm going to tell you the anguish is, like, for me anyways, was almost unsurvivable. I sometimes think that God gave me this child because, the quote you hear people say, God won't give you more than you can handle. I sometimes feel that way related to this. It was absolutely horrible. And I had no one at that time. I didn't have anybody. My ex didn't care. In fact, he just didn't even want to have another child. Just whatever, you have one, what's your problem? Just deal with it. That was him. What he used to do sometimes? I would, as the months went on, and shortly before I actually got pregnant with my son was a deep time of anguish. It was a summer of 2005. And I spent a lot of time crying. And part of it was I was on fertility medication, and that just wires up your hormones. You're going crazy. But I cried and I prayed, and I was so desperate. And I used to be in bed at night crying myself to sleep, essentially. And my ex would go into our daughter's room, who was a toddler at the time, and he would speak through the monitor and say, Mommy, why don't you love me? Why aren't I enough for you? Why do you need another baby? So I'm drowning in agony and in despair. And this is what my ex is saying to me. So I didn't have anybody at that point. But when I got pregnant, I was so elated. And you guys, I love both of my children. Being a mother is the best thing that's ever happened to me. So don't take this the wrong way. The day my son was born was the best day of my life. If you could take a drug that would make you feel like that, I would want to take it. I was just elated. I was so grateful. It was the best day of my entire life. So June 7th, 2006 was the best day of my entire life. I was overcome with gratitude for God. I was in the zone, you guys. It was great. And I can remember 2 days after he was born, I was at my house. I was alone with my baby. And I can picture exactly where he was. He was in a little baby chair. I was on my knees next to him in my living room. And I was just admiring him, right? I was looking at his little toes and his little fingers and stroking his soft cheek, looking at his long eyelashes. I was overcome. And I prayed at that point. And I asked God, I told God, I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you. I was literally on my knees thanking God. And I told him, I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to raise this child. I'm going to raise my other child. I'm going to be the best mom. And I meant that. And I had deep intention. I know you guys can understand that who have children. I wanted the best for my children. I wanted them to have a better childhood than I had. As it turns out, though, that didn't happen. And that's the despair I'm in now. Because my son there's like this defining moment. I know just because somebody turns 18, it doesn't mean, okay, now your life changes drastically. But there's something about that. There's something about him graduating high school that is really, really torturing me. I feel like it's the stamp on his childhood, I guess. And I feel like it didn't go well. And I feel such anguish for this, you guys. Anguish, because I had every good intention. I wanted my children to have a wonderful childhood. I wanted them to have a wonderful adulthood. I wanted them to have a wonderful life. And I feel like I let them down. And with my son, some of you guys know I homeschool my children. I homeschool my son. My daughter's in college. I homeschool him. There were so many things I wanted to do that I didn't do. I didn't give him the things I wanted to as a teacher, as a mother. There were so many things. I was actually at an office supply store the other day, and I was walking around, and I was in this aisle that had crayons and little books and things. And I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, I would love to buy that. Well, not now, but I would have loved to buy that. We could have done this. There's some things I really wish I had done. And now it's over. I feel like it is over. It's too late. And I'm having a lot of trouble dealing with that. I'm really going over everything that has happened. And there's a disbelief and there's a raw agony that I feel. It's horrible. It's causing me significant issues because I'm focused on this. And as it gets closer and closer and closer to his birthday, I'm starting to become pissed at my ex. How dare you? How dare you? Because one person, the father of my children, who should have cared more than anybody else, caused destruction. It was like he put a bomb off in my house and it just exploded. And thank God the kids and I got out. I mean, that's a huge blessing. I can't even imagine if we hadn't. But still, here I am. And my kids are starting their adulthood. But I didn't finish their childhood. I want to go back. I want to change things. I want to do the things that I wasn't able to do. And how do I do that? How do I get over this anguish? Joe's been helping me, and we've been trying to talk about it and talk about how, well, that's okay. It sucks. It happened, but it's not like they're deceased. There's still a life. You're still their mother. You can still do things for them. But I feel like I let my kids down. Especially my son. He has had the most trouble between my daughter and myself. He has struggled the most. What I've realized, and this is not a scientific study, it's just my own personal opinion. It seems in my experience that women handle it better than men. Now, I'm not saying that's all the time, but even just in my own family, right? Between Joe, his two sons, and my son, they definitely are in a different place than Paris and I are in. And there's so many people I've spoken to who have emailed me that are the men are more devastated. I don't know if that's true. It could just be, I have another theory too. I don't know what you guys think about this. This is kind of off subject, but I feel like when you're talking about animals, male animals are friendlier than female animals. They tend to be mummy's boys, And so Paris and I always joke, oh, I want to get a male cat or a male dog. I have two female dogs and they're the best thing, but it just kind of reminded me of that. There is a difference, and I'm not getting into any type of issue with today's world, but there is a difference between men and women. So So my son has had a harder time. Now, part of it could be because he's younger. And also, you guys can relate to this, many of you. I didn't divorce my ex. I didn't divorce him. My son and I did. My son was dragged through everything. It was the two of us standing there alone. That's how it was. Paris was out of it because she was over 18, but my underage child, he went through the divorce too. And that pisses me off that this happened, that his own father did this. It's so insane when I think about the things that my kids lost. I know my kids lost their home. They had to run away in the middle of the night. They had to deal with the police and CPS and moving to a whole new state, starting over, leaving things behind, leaving their friends behind. And that's another thing, I'm thinking to myself, okay, my son's graduating high school. He should be around his friends. He should be around them. I should have a party for him with his friends. And I can't do that. And, Joe has a nephew who's graduating as well this year. And I'm almost jealous because he has it different than my son. How could this happen to my son? Why did this happen? And here I am, and I'm trying to improve myself. I'm trying to be the best that I can be. But the past is holding me back. And it's, guys, I feel literally like my soul is exposed. It's so painful. What do I do? Has anyone had this happen to them? Do you suddenly feel like everything that happened is just, it's not, I won't say ruined. And the thing is, if you saw my son, by the way, it's not like he's in this deep depression or anything like that. It's more, I didn't do what I wanted to do. I feel like that day years ago, 18 years ago, when I was talking to God and told him what I was going to do, I failed. I feel like I failed my children. And I understand the reality. This is for all of us. Nobody would marry a narcissist knowing what you're getting into. Of course not. So I know I went in blindly. I was a good wife. That's a benefit that many of us have. When I think about my entanglement, I don't have any personal regrets other than marrying him, of course. But I was a good wife to him. There's nothing I can think of where, yeah, but I did do this. Or, no, and not that I'm perfect, not even close. I was a good wife. I didn't deserve what happened. My kids didn't deserve what happened. The thing about narcissism is it shows you, like front and center, that there truly is evil in this world. There's evil and there's good. And when you get mixed in with evil, that is stronger than you. This is why, this is for another video. Only God can save you from a narcissist. I believe that because you're dealing with spiritual warfare, something that's stronger than us. But how do we deal? How do we move forward? How do we accept what happened? How do we move forward? And how do we stop feeling so guilty about our kids, wishing it was different, praying it could be different? I'm a very optimistic person. I don't like to look in the past too much. I heard somebody say one time, and it's a great phrase. If you think of your car, the rear view mirror is much smaller than the front window, right? So you're not supposed to be looking back behind you all the time. I've been doing that though. I'm driving backwards and I'm struggling with it. Has this happened to you? Does this make sense? Am I just crazy? Or maybe it's normal. I don't know. I would love your help. Just like that first time when I spoke to Joe on the phone, and here was somebody who spoke the same language that I do. You guys speak my language. Many of you have children. So please let me know. Tell me if it's me, it's only me, or tell me this happened to you and it got better, or your child's okay. I worry incessantly about this. Thank you so much for watching this video. I've been spotty on YouTube because of the depression I've been feeling over this. It's really affecting me. I don't know if I can get that across in the video. It's bad. So if you can help me, please let me know. I would love that. I will be back in a few days. I might have Joe with me next week. I'm not sure, but I will really try to be back. I'm trying to do 2 videos a week, so I'm trying to get back. So please support me on that. And I love you guys. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.